What is going on, guys? This is Brad with Despite Fitness, and we're getting it in today, doing some training. Today is April 17th. Is a Friday? Friday! Bench day, so it's good. Went and did a quick jog to get warmed up. Working with the guys here. We got Dan on the bench, on the ones and twos, making it happen. We got Tim over there, back for another session. We didn't chase him off in the first one. That's good. We didn't chase him off because there's no other gyms to go to. You got nowhere to run.
We're going nowhere, bro.
You're going nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know you smell different when you're awake?
What the fuck?
You kind of looked at me like... Anyway, yeah, so we're doing some training. Should be a good session. I'm getting up to, I think, about 365-ish. Gonna hit some sevens, 4 sets. Tim's doing some stuff. Dan's doing some stuff. Should be good. Yeah, so it's gonna be another kind of a session. Hopefully a little bit of goofing around, having some fun. A couple of fucking goons in the gym. Getting through our warm-ups right now. I'm getting up to, looks like I'm doing 2 plates. 2 plates it is. Yeah. So we're gonna get into the workout. Why don't you join us? All right, so Tim asked me a little bit about the moving fluidly, right? And what he's referring to is something that we've talked about before, which is that range of motion, right? So if you look back on his set, you know, he's very purposeful on that extension and locking that elbow and like really making that pretty obvious. Whereas I am more just kind of like moving through the range of motion. So his question is like, you know, why? And so essentially what it is just keeping that weight moving and just keeping the momentum, right? So trying to stay under tension, because ultimately, if I completely lock out,
you're off tension.
I'm off tension. Now, most of that load is sitting on my skeletal structure versus muscles holding it, right? So that's one reason. Now, could I be losing something off that top end by not locking that tricep that little bit every single time? Yeah, I could. I could absolutely be losing a little bit on that lockout. But you could potentially overcome that by some additional tricep work. And then what you'll see is as I get into my working sets, specifically the last set, I will be much more purposeful, right? And that's when I should be the most tired. When I'm the most tired is when I do that, and I'm very purposeful with the pause and the full lock to really emphasize that point. And then I'll do a lot of extra tricep work as well. So I believe that the loss that I receive by not having that little bit extra tricep lockout can be compensated by additional tricep work specifically. Okay. So that's the risk that I'm willing to take, but I could be wrong. And so that's something to remember too, like, you know, at home is that I could be wrong. Like, I am not the greatest bencher, and especially if you compare me against my peer group in terms of like national competition, like there's a lot of guys that are better benchers than me. And that could be one reason why. You know, I don't know. But it's a risk that I'm willing to take. And it's just kind of how I've gotten used to benching. So I tend to default to it if I'm not being very conscientious about what it is that I'm doing. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of blocking instruction. So I'm speaking to Tim, but I'm just doing this kind of to maybe provide something for any viewer that would check this out as well. So potentially be able to help other people as well. So you have a shoulder issue. Just briefly talk about the shoulder issue that you had, like in terms of the damage or repair or whatever's been done. And then maybe some of the limitation that you have real quick, just so that we have some context.
Okay, so what I ended up doing was driving my shoulder into somebody playing flag football, because I'm old and you get injured playing flag football these days. But what ended up happening was initially I thought I tore something because it hurt so bad, and I waited about 2 weeks with no lifting, and then finally went into physical therapy. They said no, it's just it's really angry and it's like a cat 2 sprain or something of that nature. What my limitations originally were was anything lateral or forward had a lot of pain to it. Went through a full round of physical therapy, and I'm just now starting to get back into where I'm lifting weights and doing stuff like that. Obviously, the weights that I'm lifting are fine for my chest, but not my shoulder. So that's where I'm at right now, is trying to get back into lifting and get it to full strength.
All right, and then while he was training on one of his sets, notice that he came down and hit the chest, locked it out, and then subsequent reps were a little bit more of a partial rep or not full range, right? And then asked, like, hey, what's the deal? And he said, hey, I kind of felt my shoulder kind of remind me that it's been problematic, right? Okay, so we decided to lighten the load. So the last set that you guys saw Tim do was him backing down from the weight that we had on there previously. Kind of at my recommendation, just to, hey, be smart. There's no rush to get yourself re-injured, right? Okay, so on that vein, I'm gonna throw in a couple things at you for you to try on your next set and see if maybe it helps the shoulder feel a little bit better and help you manage the weight a little bit better. So I'm gonna lay down on the bench and I'm gonna do a couple things. So one of the things that I noticed, and I'll cut in some footage kind of right now so you can see what Tim was doing before. But just to speak through it, what you were doing is you had your shoulders flared like this, right? Elbows flared way out. And if you watch Dan and I bench, our arms are a little bit more tucked, okay? So more at a 45-degree angle, the humerus to the body, right? So you're like closer to a 90-degree angle, where we're more like 45. And that can be a huge effect on the shoulders in terms of stability and strain, right? So what I'm gonna have you do on your next set is I'd like you to put your feet up on the bench like this and stack up on your neck. So what I want you to feel is like you're stacking yourself up on your traps. All right, so neck flat on the bench, traps pinched and back, right? Like you're gonna squeeze a pencil between your shoulder blades. Get your hands set, right? Okay, and then once your hands are set, bring one leg down to wherever you're comfortable, right? And then the other leg down. And what I want is tightness in your legs. I don't want the legs to be loose and slack. I want them tight. Okay, shoulders are still pinched, right? And I'm still up on my neck. Now what I want you to do is when you start to bench, take a deep breath, unrack, and I want you to work on the shoulder angle, right? So instead of that 90-degree angle, I want you to keep that more 45. See how my hands are? Right? Fluid.
Staying stacked on the straps.
While staying stacked on the traps. And that leg tightness that I talked about is going to keep you pushed this way so that you're not going to lose that tension, but you're going to stay stacked up on your traps, and you're going to keep the arm angle at a 45-degree angle, so not this 90. I want you very much to be here. And I want to see what effect that has in terms of how the shoulder feels. Right, so next set, he's going to do that, and I'm willing to bet that there'll be an improvement in what you feel in your shoulder. Okay, so anyway, those are the little cues, but especially for somebody who's had a shoulder injury recently, what we want to do is not rush ourselves into an injury, right? He's not getting ready for a comp. There's no deployment. There is no onus for him to rush into anything, right? He's got all the time and space in the world to left foot, right foot, and kind of wade slowly back into the pool of training, right? So this is a huge propensity for athletes, but especially men, right? Like I'm guilty of it sometimes too. And in fact, I rushed myself back into kind of retweaking my leg, right? We just want to get back to where we were. We just want to get back there. And especially if there's no catalyst to force us to do something, there's no reason you should be willing to risk the rush. So that's kind of what we're trying to implement, is just understand, like, we got to take that step back, build slow, rebuild that muscle tissue, rebuild our form and function, and get ourselves back to feeling good. And then once we're feeling good and beginning to train again, we can start to kind of move the bubble again, right? And get be able to move that bar up and up and up, and get ourselves back to not only where we were, but hopefully beyond where we were at some point in time. So discretion when training, discretion really is the better part of valor, and we just have to make sure that we reassure ourselves. That's another value of having training partners, is it's somebody to get in your ear and be like, hey fucker, knock it off. So, hey fucker, knock it off. All right, my set.
I'm getting real tired of Brad doing the weight everybody else is doing. He does it like 10 more reps, and he makes fun of us for doing it.
11,
That's just
12,
motivation to get you there.
Put 280 on there,
14,
Brad.
15, 16, 17.
That's like a
18,
third of your weight, dude. Let me put
19
pounds there.
I weigh 280, bro.
19, 20,
You weigh about what, 180, 175,
160.
160.
So I weigh 280. I weigh over 100 pounds more than you.
Well,
Ooh.
alright, cool. Dog's going crazy.
Yeah.
Alright guys, that's it. That's the video. Got in for some bench training. A really good session. Had Dan join us, had Tim join us. So it was really awesome for me. Because I gotta tell you guys, like, honestly, like having guys around to train with, like, makes a difference. You know what I mean? And like you've been with me now for a while. So just the consistency to have a training partner with me to be able to get that that in. Because there've been a number of days where I probably wouldn't have done anything, and then having you join us too is like it's fresh blood, it's good. Plus it's kind of like the power of three. I think that having the triad is usually like the best kind of like training model. I think like in terms of like partners wise. So I think that having three is like really the best model, right? So it's like it's enough where everyone can kind of help in terms of loading, and then while someone's going, one can rest, one can spot. Like it's just a really good effective number. So it's nice to have you guys. And the space isn't so big, but it's not so small that we can't all fit and be able to do what we need to do. So that's awesome. So in terms of the training, what was done, my plan was the 365, ended up doing the 375 because of the Duffalo bar, the extra 10 pounds. I didn't feel like messing with change plates, so I just went to 3 plates in the quarter, which with that Duffalo bar made it 375. So 4 sets, 7 reps. That all felt really great. So I'm really happy with how my bench has been. The groin injury doesn't seem to affect my ability to press, and it very possibly could in terms of getting myself screwed in, and then that leg drive. So luckily it hasn't affected that. Dan, what were you working today?
I kind of just do what I normally do and don't really go in with a plan, and if I have a plan I break it. So I think I started out with like 185, but the Duffalo bar kind of restricts or makes me go through more of my range of motion.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do as heavy weight for the amount of reps I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I just dropped the weight and I focused on explosion. And then at the end, I did 2 drop sets. So
Cool, yeah, and like you mentioned, that added element of the Duffalo bar does change things.
Yeah.
And then Tim, so what was your plan today? What was the goal and objective?
So my goal was to come in, kind of go off of what my previous knowledge of what my 1 rep max was, knock that down to down by 50 pounds, and then do 50%, 60%, 70%, and then working sets of 80% my 1 rep max. That turned out to be a terrible plan since I'm coming off an injury. And kind of like the things what Brad pointed out to me, it kind of made me realize like you take advantage of not having injuries versus having injuries, where you can have sloppy form and you may never get super big, which I'm not a power lifter, so I'm never trying to climb too high anyway. But having that form critique, especially even once he showed me what I needed to do to kind of help nurse that injury and to do it right so I'm not further injuring it, he still had to point out as I was doing my reps, hey, elbows, you know, and that type of having partners to do that is clutch.
Yeah.
Change everything.
So when you mentioned that you kind of your plan of action and then what happened, so you know we did stop at kind of mid set and did a little piece talking about how to kind of maximize your position. So let's talk about like in terms of what we did in the recommendation and how that actually felt for you. So you know we made the change, bring those elbows in. We talked a little bit more about that leg drive, and it's funny because on one of those sets you popped up and you said like it's too light, right? It doesn't feel like. So like can you for anyone that's not familiar, that hasn't had that hands-on critique, or is maybe just kind of casually watching this, from someone that's never experienced it before in terms of getting that critique, that feedback, from one set to another, like what did that feel like, or what was the the sensation for you?
So I think that was the second set that you had actually fixed my body position. Mm-hmm. So the first set was kind of weird for me because it was like, okay, I'm trying to changing what I've done for a while now, and so that first set was with the change kind of didn't feel quite as confident. I guess it would be more confidence. Mm-hmm. The second set, you know, staying mindful of body position, breathing, holding it, it just went smoother. And when I got done, what was right at the edge of hurting my shoulder, like I felt it but it wasn't hurting, didn't feel it at all. And then I was like, that was too light. Now I feel like I should have went up, even though I resisted that urge because it only takes a little bit to re-injure a shoulder, my shoulder, and like he said, it's not worth it. There's no time limit on fixing it. So
yeah, I mean it's the variable straw, right? The straw that broke the camel's back. It only took one straw, and that was just one straw too much, right? So, so a couple of key lessons for you guys. You know, first and foremost is mechanics matter. It can make a huge difference and really can make or break your ability to move weight efficiently and effectively, right? So there's that piece. And then there's also the piece of going too far too fast. So, Tim's kind of coming back from an injury, trying to rehabilitate himself. And like we discussed before, there is no onus on him to rush right in and get back to a new 1 rep max or whatever, right? So he's got ample time and space to be able to appropriately rehabilitate and rebuild, his strength level and all that stuff. And then also simultaneously reworking that body position. So anytime that you get used to performing something, right? Like whether it's you're throwing a football or throwing a baseball or your golf swing, right? Even if you have a very bad golf swing, if you get used to that motion, that pattern, that's how you're going to do things. Until you can be retaught and relearn the new pattern, you're always going to kind of start defaulting back to what your pattern was. And while you're learning a new pattern, it's super important to stay light, right? Because like if we repattern, we recoach, retrain, and set you loose, things are feeling pretty good, and then you start wanting to push. Well, that feels really good. I want what I can do with this new form. I want what a new 1 rep max is, and then you rush right into a new 1 rep max and maybe hurt yourself or you break the pattern or whatever, right? So on top of the taking it slow for the rehabilitative piece of it, take it slow also to do that neural patterning, because it takes making all those neurons kind of line up so that the body fires the way that it should fire. It takes time to set that pattern. And that's why, like they always say, you never forget how to ride a bike, right? Once you've learned that pattern, it's easy just to fall back into it, right? No matter how much time and space goes by. But if you don't know the pattern, if you take somebody who doesn't ride a bike and you put them on a bike, they're gonna crash. So it's the same thing with trying to learn a new pattern in terms of a squat, a bench press, a deadlift. If you're learning a whole new pattern, you need to give yourself time and space to be able to assimilate the pattern appropriately before you move on and exceed where you were before. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, so that's, I don't want to belabor the point, but I want to make sure that I drive that home because it's hypercritical. I see that way too often. I'll be in the gym, somebody asks me a question, I'll make a critique, and I make one critique one time, and the next thing I know, they're off in the corner trying to do a new 1 rep max. It's not how that works. Anyway, lots here today. So I'm super grateful for you guys. You know, a lot of really interesting tidbits and nitnoids in this piece. I hope that you guys at home are enjoying these videos. Make sure that you hit me up. You know, you can email me, you can hit me on Instagram, you can hit me on YouTube. Leave me your questions, your comments, things like that, anything that you want me to touch on. If there's something that I might be able to help you, you can reach out to me for form checks and things like that. I'm more than happy to take a look at what you guys are doing at home if you want to send me a video or whatever. The whole point of this channel and everything that I do here is to help you and anyone that takes the time and energy to watch these videos. I only care about helping you guys, that's it. So whatever I can do to make things better for you guys, you know, helping, whatever, let me know. That's it, guys. I'm gonna close it down. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them in the chat box below. I will respond. I appreciate you guys continuing to support me and the channel with the likes, the shares, and the subs. It means a lot to me to have you guys with me. So for all of you that have subscribed to the channel recently, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for finding the channel and deciding to stick around. It means an awful lot to me. And for any of you that have seen a video or two and haven't decided to join yet, I wish that you would. It'd be nice to have you along for the ride. Remember, guys, no matter what it is you think you can't do, like rehabilitate an injury, learn a new pattern, you know, exceed where you were before, you got to get in, train to spite, sometimes take your time, but you're either going to find an excuse or you're going to find a way. And I hope that you guys continue to find the way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye.
Bye. Bye.